Yes, people. Welcome to Tribe Talk Live episode 8. Man, really getting through these episodes now. Um, I'll be uploading last week's video um, on YouTube either tonight or tomorrow, so I'll let you know. But yeah, today we have special guest again. His name's Ollie Heath. One of the directors of Cobras Rugby. So yeah, let's get into it. Yes. How's it going?
Hello, mate. Yeah, good. Very good. It's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, very long. How long has that actually been though? Probably a couple of years.
Yeah, probably about 2 years since we last spoke face to face. Yeah, I mean this is as face to face as I think most people are getting at the moment. So
Yeah.
yeah. How you doing anyway?
Yeah, as good as I can be, to be honest. I don't live in London at the moment, so there's a lot more space to do things and roam and actually be a little bit more free. I mean, I do still work in London, and it's a bit crazy there. But yeah, as good as I can be. I mean, how have you been?
Good. Yeah, really good. Really busy. Yeah, I think I've been one of the lucky ones in that lockdown has actually almost led to more work for me. So
Okay.
yeah, like sort of April, May, I was working sort of 12, 13-hour days every day.
Hmm.
So yeah. I'd much rather be doing that than be furloughed or, be,
Yeah, yeah,
laid off like a lot of people unfortunately have been. So yeah, I'm counting my blessings, I guess, with that.
yeah. So for all those that don't know, um, who is Ollie Heath? Like, where did it all begin for you?
That's a good question. So who am I? So yeah, as you alluded to, I am director of rugby for Cobras Rugby, sevens team on the UK Sevens circuit. We've been going for this would have been our ninth season, but
Hmm.
it doesn't look like we're going to be getting any rugby anytime soon, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully gearing up for our 10th year next year. Um, Also, outside of the sporting sphere, I work as an account executive for a large US software company. So I, talk daily to senior people at, a variety of different organizations all
Hmm.
across Europe, across the Middle East, helping them with their digital transformation initiatives that they have. So
Hmm.
bit of a mix, really. Sport and business. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's what a lot of people in London are doing, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, that's where everyone gravitates towards London, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So what's your thoughts and opinions on everything that's going on in the world right now, in a nutshell, anyway, to do with like the virus and like BLM and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it all seems a little bit surreal,
Yeah.
really. The whole sort of lockdown situation is something that I think, none of us went into 2020 really thinking,
Hmm.
even thinking something like this would even be possible. I think a lot of people unfortunately have holidays booked that have had to be cancelled. But it's an interesting one. I think it's a bit of a mindset switch a little bit. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people have sort of felt a little bit sorry for themselves, and that the fact that they can't go out, all that sort of stuff. But really, it's a bit of a wasted opportunity in a way if you kind of just sit and feel sorry for yourself. I think a lot of people, like people that I know, have used this sort of time to, first and foremost, really kind of push their careers forward as much as they could, whether
Yeah.
that be, actually in their jobs or whether they're doing exterior stuff like training courses,
Hmm.
upskilling themselves basically,
Yeah.
so that, we're coming out of this weird situation that we're in at the moment in a better place.
Hmm.
Um, so I suppose in terms of lockdown, yeah, that in terms of I suppose whatever else is going around in the world, you mentioned BLM, Black Lives Matter. I think that's just it's been a bit of a it's been obviously an issue for a while, but it's just come
Yeah.
to a point where I think people have just had enough, and I think a lot of people, like the whole sort of white lives matter people, I think a lot of them don't mean it, when they say white lives matter, obviously that's detrimental to the whole movement, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of the time it's it's not done in a, in a way to try
Vicious.
and upset people. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
just people are a little bit ignorant and people don't really understand what impact it's
definitely. Yeah.
actually saying that they're giving. So I don't know. Hopefully there's going to be some decent change that's going to come out of this, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see, really.
I mean, it's obviously history repeats itself, and I think because of the world, how the world is set up right now, in terms of like social media and everything kind of being exposed, I think it's made the whole movement like that much bigger. And obviously everyone being inside for lockdown, and all their attention is on social media.
Yeah.
So I think so you mentioned as well that you're actually busier than before. So what are some of the things in your job, and obviously from the rugby perspective, have you been doing to try and overcome lockdown and quarantine and the virus and everything else?
Yeah, I suppose I've been quite lucky in that the nature of what I do actually, a lot of organizations who've had a real sort of change in circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally businesses have been office based a lot of the time. People have been working 9 to 5 in offices, and they realize that they can't do that at the moment. So they're not set up in any way, shape or form to be, I suppose, a mobile organization or a digital organization. So, I've had quite a few calls from senior people in some pretty large organizations just basically saying help. So I mean, we've had a lot of stuff that's come into us, but at the same time, the stuff that we were already working on kind of accelerated a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's just been quite an interesting time, really. It's people's mind, as I keep mentioning mindset, but people's mindset seem to have switched a little bit as well. And the organizations have kind of used this period to, similar to on an individual level, kind of come out of this in a better place, whether that's from their technology standpoint or people standpoint or whatever it is. But also some people are having to have conversations with people like myself and other organizations purely to keep the lights on. A lot of businesses have lost a lot of money. How can they actually continue to do business in this period of time? Because the new normal, as we're all calling it, is is different to what it was before.
Yeah, I mean, I got sent an article the other day, and a couple had set up a hand sanitizing company like 12 weeks ago, and now that company is worth 30 million. Yeah, just ridiculous numbers.
It's good timing.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah, I saw someone joking about if they bought shares in something like Zoom in 2019, how much that would be worth now.
Crazy. If you even invested in some, like weights or resistance bands or something, be crazy. On the rugby side of things, how have you tried to overcome everything going on?
Well, there's not an awful lot we can do because we're not playing. We're not allowed to play at the moment. So whether that's 15s or 7s or anything like that, so everyone's in a bit of a state of limbo at the moment. No one really knows any sort of dates as to when leagues or when any tournaments or anything like that are going to be back up and running. So I suppose it's just a case of, from an individual standpoint, trying to stay in as decent a shape as possible whilst the gyms are shut. There's the old phrase of doing extras, all that sort of thing. Yeah. And just the whole sort of self-betterment side of things, like from my standpoint, being I suppose a younger coach in the sort of space, just continuing to broaden my knowledge so that I can help others further down the line.
So as well, like your plans for the future, obviously, as mentioned before, companies and people and individuals are having to upskill themselves and adapt to new situations. Do you think that will last? Question one. And what are your plans moving forward, both in your personal life and the rugby side?
I hope it lasts. Yeah, I hope it lasts. I mean, everybody's kind of, as we mentioned, priorities have shifted a little bit at the moment. So I hope so, because I think people, as I said, people will come out of this in a better place if they go through with what they're
Yeah.
trying to do. So I hope that it is something that people do maintain, because it is going to be beneficial for them in the long run. Whether that's people continuing to better themselves, in their roles, in aiming for roles they want in the future through things like development plans, all that sort of stuff. The whole thing of, it's a bit of a cliche of trying to learn something new every day, but genuinely, if you suddenly decide I've reached where I want to reach, that sort of thing, it's a bit like, well, you've hit the wall, then you've hit the ceiling. It's like, what's the point in stopping? So I think it will, at least at the very beginning. Hopefully in the longer run, I would like to see it, but at the same time, I don't know. In terms of my plans, I suppose just from a business standpoint, continue to try and do as well as I can from a business standpoint. Push my own learnings. I've got a development plan in place that I'm trying to work through at the moment. From a rugby side of things, continuing to develop as a coach. No coach is perfect. I absolutely am not perfect in any way, shape, or form. We're always learning. The coach that says he knows everything is the coach that's a liar, basically. Whether we're looking outside of our own sports to try and better ourselves. So, like for rugby sevens, we could learn a thing or two from, sprinting, the mechanics of, running, all that sort of stuff. Football from, kicking, all that sort of, there's a load of transferable skills from a variety of different sports. So the more we can learn from other sports, the better.
Yeah.
I suppose plan from a team perspective, we got we've got a 5-year plan in place, although it's kind of been delayed a little bit from this year. But so bump that back a little bit of a year. So the Cobras, ideally within sort of the next 5 years, will be more established as a side. We're going for 10 years next year anyway, but be a name that's one of the first ones on anyone's lips when they're talking about rugby sevens. Everyone typically knows the likes of Samurai, those sorts of guys. So how can we be in that sort of upper echelon of teams? Run a little bit more professionally. So, have kit, everybody's kitted out. Everyone looks the actual part. Because that's a big thing. Like, you turn up to a tournament and you play against the side, you'll know from playing with us, that you see your next opponents, for example, and they've got unmatching kit, unmatching socks, and it's just like, we're going to win this game, that sort of thing. Whereas, the teams that look professional generally are the better teams. So, we at least want to be giving that impression as best we can. Because once you start looking like it, you start acting like it a little bit as well. So, just try and be, as I said, one of the better teams and consistently reach knockout stages. And ideally get onto the Super 7 series, whether that's as an invitational side for a couple of tournaments, like a guest team, or as a fully flow side on the circuit. So we'll see. There's some big plans in place, but we'll have to see. It all comes down to money, unfortunately, with sevens, which is a frustrating thing.
We'll definitely go deeper into that as we go on. But I actually have some Q&A questions for you, as you know.
Cool.
So let's jump into it. Where did the idea of Cobras Rugby come from?
So it started as a means of uni mates to get together with over more than just a beer. Everyone meets up with their mates for a beer, so we wanted to take a little bit of a step further. The guys that helped set this up are all rugby guys as well. How can we, just enjoy ourselves outside of more than just a beer, basically? Our first ever tournament was Slough Sevens in 2011. We had 2 teams there, and I think we had over it was like 25, 30 people we took to the very first tournament, and it kind of snowballed from there, really. I played for a couple of teams beforehand. I played for a side called Apache, who you'll know. And I also played for a team called the Stallions, who were sponsored by Ram, so they were known as Ram Stallions. So I had a few sort of contacts from the seven space, and a few guys wanted to get involved in Cobras. From there, friends joined, friends of friends joined, friends of friends of friends joined in, and it kind of, the ball started moving on that. So it started growing from there, really.
And where did the name Cobras come from?
We stole it from our uni team. Our uni team had the nickname the Cobras, so we stole it from there. But there's no affiliation to our old uni at all. But,
no,
we thought
that was
the name fit.
a side question from that, how is the team evolved from just you know, some friends, rugby people from uni to where it is now? How has it evolved from that?
Yeah, good question. So the whole sort of friends of friends of friends, you know, people bringing in mates that they know are good players, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, that always helps. You know, when you go round at the beginning of every season and you ask someone, is there someone we should get involved? That sort of thing. Is there anyone who's rapid, who's quick? Anyone who's got good hands, who's a good 10? You know, any forwards we can bring in that you recommend, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you know, everyone has someone generally that they know is a good player, whether they're in an academy or they've played sort of Southwest or Midlands or something like that, under 18s. You know, generally they get those sorts of guys in. So yeah, it kind of grew organically that way. I suppose we've been quite lucky in a sense that some of the boys who have, you know, a lot of boys who play for us over the years have gone on a little bit further as well. So, you know, looking back, we've had guys who've played for England Sevens. We've had two guys who played for England Sevens. Got someone who's played for England under 20s, someone who's currently in the Premiership at the moment, and a couple of Championship players as well. So, you know, there's some pretty tidy players who've come through, which has been good.
Moving on. What has been the highlights since establishing Cobras?
I suppose the tournament wins are obviously the ones that a lot of people would look at. So we won Sevens in the City, which is Allianz Park, Saracens grounds, a few years ago. You know, that was shown on TV, so that was pretty decent exposure on ITV and BT Sport. We won a tournament at Twickenham Stadium, obviously the home of rugby, which was awesome. But from a personal standpoint, I quite like when you see people just develop as players. So you bring someone on, you know, maybe they're a little bit raw in a first tournament, they don't really know what they're doing, and then, you know, sort of 2 or 3 tournaments down the line, you can really see them just starting to get used to the game. You know, they've picked up maybe some bits that you've shared or some teammates have shared, that sort of thing. And just seeing people improve, I think is, you know, from my perspective at least, it's almost more satisfying than the wins, because the wins are almost as a byproduct. You know, if you continue to improve, the wins will come. So, you know, we have to focus not necessarily on winning. Obviously, that's nice, but we have to focus on, you know, people improving, people getting better, and just generally getting better as a side.
Yeah, because how I see Cobras as well is, you know, obviously some of the teams that you mentioned before, already established, you know, touring teams or whatever else have you know, the finished product, the polished players and whatever else. Whereas obviously Cobra as a come up team, value that the raw kind of, they're still polished players there, but they also have a mixture of like just raw talent and developing players as you go, as you said.
Yeah, we're a bit of a project, I think, more so than an established side. So, you know, obviously we want to get up to that, and to be able to do that, we need to hold on to the players, which you know, unfortunately is quite difficult when you've got some of the bigger sides who are offering overseas travel, free kit, all this sort of stuff. So it's difficult to try and hold on to a lot of players. But that's the aim. You know, we can only work with what we've got to an extent, and if we can get people to as good a level as they can, hopefully they'll see the value in you know, being loyal to us, and trying to be part of building something, rather than trying to join a bigger side who, you know, it's great. You know, I've played for Samurai, great. But you know, you may not play for them. You'll be a small fish in a big pond. Whereas with us, you know, you can have a real impact in growing and forming, shaping our team. Yeah.
So a side question from that: what are some of the biggest challenges as a developing team? As you said, like a small fish in a big pond.
Holding on to players is a big one. You know, some of the bigger teams coming in and poaching players is always a bit of a struggle. So as I mentioned, loyalty is something that we value really highly, and money is probably the big one in the seven space. You know, it's not funded by the RFU. It's all self-funded. So, you know, you need sponsors, otherwise it's coming out of somebody's pocket. And yeah, that's very challenging. Especially, you know, we've had a couple of years where we've had sponsors pull out, and you know, it's had to come out of the bank of me just to get us through the season, that sort of thing. Yeah, they're probably the main
Those two
ones.
main ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned it before. I think you mentioned where you would like to see Cobras in the next 5 years. Where would you like to see the Cobras in the next 10 years? If you could elaborate on what you already said.
Yeah, so just generally being really established as a side,
Yeah.
I think is a key one. So just to kind of go back to the whole funding and money side of things, I reckon that about 80% of sevens teams only last about 2 years, because maybe for the first year they'll have a sponsor, or they're all, the guys are all really excited, so they'll all chip in so that they can get going. Then they realize the second year it's a bit of a slog, and then come the third year they're like, I can't be asked to do this anymore. So I'd say
Yeah.
a huge number of teams don't last more than 2 years. So we've had a few slogs, a few years that have been really tough. So I mean, ideally, in 10 years, we want to be doing sort of maybe an overseas trip a season, whether that's to somewhere like Dubai or to Amsterdam or Dublin, that sort of thing, Kinsale
Yeah.
Sevens. We want to be able to offer that. Ideally, have more partnerships. We're lucky that we've partnered with a good kit manufacturer. We've got some bits and pieces going on at the moment with the likes of My Protein. But yeah, just more of those sorts of things so that we can offer our guys more. Instead of turning up to tournaments and we've got a gazebo, we've got some balls, we've got we want to look like a professional outfit, like I
Yeah.
said, for the 5-year plan, and that's obviously going to continue for a 10-year plan. So things like having a physio at a tournament. There are some sides out there that have things like sports psychologists, that sort of thing. So can we have a real sort of team around us, and act and behave like a professional sort of team in what
I
is
can
mostly an amateur environment.
I can help with the physio if need be. I have quite a few actually that I know.
Nice.
What are some of the key aspects of creating a winning team / culture?
It's a good question. I think it comes down to the boys mainly. A lot of it is not necessarily talent based. Obviously, talent's a real start, and if you're a good rugby player, natural with natural ability, that's obviously a brilliant start. But I think a lot of it, is mentality. Are you willing to turn up to tournaments is always a big one. Do you want to win? Are you coachable? Do you have that drive to actually be better? That sort of
Yeah.
thing, I think's key. That it's almost a bit of a cliche in that I've seen you mention it on these sorts of things before. Talent versus hard work. It's ideally you have both, but at the same time, I've seen so many guys who are unbelievably talented rugby players go absolutely nowhere because they just they don't see themselves going any further. They don't really, maybe they don't enjoy it. I don't know what it is, but it's such a shame when you see people who are really, really talented,
Definitely.
who just almost are taking advantage of the fact that they're talented and riding on that coattails. They're just not going to work hard at all. Whereas you got guys who, clearly aren't as talented, but they work their nuts off to get to a higher place. And 9 times out of 10, they will overtake the talented people.
Yeah, definitely.
I've seen guys just coming through Cobras. We've got guys who are playing championship level. We've got guys playing Nat 1 at the moment, which is really good level of rugby. These guys are getting paid to play professional and semi-professional. Arguably, there are guys who aren't playing at that level in 15s who are more talented. I've genuinely seen guys come through who are more talented and they've gone nowhere with rugby because they just don't have the right sort of mindset. And it's people would kill to have that level of talent, and so it's just such a waste sometimes, which is very frustrating.
I mean, I think from my personal experience as well with Cobras is it must be like really challenging to kind of create a culture and the certain environment you need to succeed, especially when players are kind of inconsistent, getting poached here and there, like they're not consistent enough to create something great. And I know you've been trying really hard for us obviously to be getting training outside of tournaments rather than just turning up and just relying on whatever we have when we get there. So yeah, I think that's a big one. And I think, you know, us training outside of that,
Mm.
it will be a big factor in creating that overall culture.
Definitely, yeah. We want to be more of a, because sevens teams are historically like very nomadic. Like people are coming from all over the place. A lot of the time, people turn up, they've never met their teammates on the day, that sort of thing. So, you know, we almost want to be more of a club environment rather than just a random team. You know, we want to turn up and 10 out of the 12 guys who are in the squad know each other or have played with each other before or at least trained with each other, that sort of thing. So it immediately gives us an advantage. Whereas, you know, we don't want to spend the first game, maybe game and a half, just sussing each other out.
Definitely. It makes a massive difference, especially if you train with everyone you know as well. You know what they're capable of, you know where they're going to be at certain times, and it's a lot.
And just basic patterns as well, like the way we play. You know, if we turn up and we're having to tell people how we play, you know, we're having to do that nearly every week sometimes when you have loads of new guys.
I remember when I was in college, and I'd only played rugby a little bit before joining college, and I started from the bottom team, and I worked my way up to the first team, but I did really, really well in the second team, everything else, because I was so used to everyone, trained with everyone, knew where everyone was going to be. As soon as I moved up to the first team, the same moves and patterns that we were going through just failed miserably, because I was expecting someone to be somewhere and they weren't there, or they'd pass too hard or too softly, and it makes a massive difference.
It does.
Is the key to sports performance mental or physical, or a mixture of both?
Short answer, I'd say mixture of both. So I'm going to use an example from the whole mental side of things. So if you think you're going to lose, you'll lose. If you think you're going to win, you stand a much better chance. So we played in a tournament. You may have even been playing a few years ago, where we had a very, very young squad. I'd say most of the squad's average age was probably 20, 21, so really young. And we had the army in one of our games. So, you know, the British Army, these guys are professional rugby players, you know, full of some Fijians and, you know, guys who are international standard rugby players. And immediately you could just see most of our young guys just like, oh, we're going to lose. It's the army. And like me as the coach, I was just like, guys, what are you doing? You know, if we step on the pitch thinking we're going to lose, we're definitely going to lose. So we actually came out at half time in that game. Exactly. We came out, it got to half time in that game and we were winning. And immediately you could just see loads of these guys kind of looking around like, we're beating the army. What is going on? So, you know, I think mentality is a huge thing. You know, as I said, if you go into something and think you're going to lose, you will lose. You know, you have to go in with a positive mindset. And whether that's, you know, going onto a field to play rugby, or, you know, going into a meeting with work, or, you know, into the gym, if you think you can lift something potentially, you know, so if you're deadlifting, for example, and you immediately go up to the bar and think, I'm not going to do it, then you're probably not. So I'd say it's huge. And on the flip side, the physical thing, I think definitely you do need it. You know, there's certain points where you have to be physical, especially in a sport like rugby. You know, if you're completely out of shape, for example, you're not going to do particularly well, especially in something like sevens, where you have to be a bit of an athlete to play. So you've absolutely got to look after yourself from a physical standpoint. But I'd say mental is huge. But you do need both. You can't really have one without the other to see success. In my opinion,
essentially the mindset, especially it doesn't even need to be someone who is younger. It's just their own personal mindset of, like, you know, you see, okay, we're gonna play a team that is, you know, should walk over us on paper anyway. But I think essentially what you're talking about is to have the mindset of not being afraid to lose.
I mean, as I kind of touched on earlier, the main thing that we tend to look at, and I think a lot of teams probably should, is the performance. If we lose, but we play really, really well, or we play better than we did in the last game, that's great. We lost, which is a bit of a bummer, but you know, we've improved as a team, which is
Mhm.
great. And then
That's
we'll
it,
take
yeah.
that into the next game. And, you know, if we improve again, we're likely to win. You know, as winning is a byproduct.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with expectation as well. You know, you go into that game against the army and you expect to lose. You know, if you go with the mindset of not being afraid to lose, not having any expectation for yourself or the team, just go out there and play your best, have fun, you know, be physical, do what you need to do. You might surprise yourself. If not, then you learn
Exactly.
from it and you move on.
Exactly. Go out
Uh,
there, have some fun, play some
that's
good
it.
rugby,
That's it.
see what
I had
happens.
there was a few, like, even going back to college days again, there was a few people like in the team. The captain of the seconds team at my college would say stuff exactly like that. Oh, okay, yeah, we're playing this school, we're playing that school, but they have a reputation of being good at rugby. We're gonna lose, guys. You know, it is. He would say that before
Well, we
games, and
are
I'm
now.
like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Yeah. Um, so yeah, one of the main reasons why I wanted to get you on as well is because, you know, in the talks we've had personally as well, we talked a lot about mentality. Um, so like, I know we've touched on it, but for everyone else, what is your experience being like dealing with mental health in sport, in your personal life, and how did you manage to overcome that?
Yeah, so from a mental health and sport perspective, and just in general
Hmm.
perspective, you know, there's 65, 66 million people in the UK, and at least a quarter of people will have had or currently have, you know, mental health issues. So, you know,
Hmm.
that's 15 to 20 million
Yeah.
people in the UK who, you know, could potentially be struggling right now. You know, if there were two more people on this call, odds are someone is really struggling. So, you know, it's crazy. It's still kind of frowned upon, especially for males.
Yeah.
You know, males for some reason still think of it as being a little bit weak or afraid to
Yeah.
speak up about any sort of mental health, um, which you shouldn't do because it is so common. It is
Hmm.
so common. I mean, you know, you get Olympic athletes who struggle
Yeah.
with anxiety, with depression, all these sorts of things. You hear stories of people with crippling anxiety before a final. You know, people vomiting, people really don't know what they're doing. CEOs of huge businesses have mental health challenges.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, for example, one of the most successful businessmen in the world, has openly spoken about how he struggled with his mental health over the years.
Hmm.
And from me personally, I in 2018, I was in a job I absolutely hated, and it got to a point where every day just ended up being a bit of a grey day. Like I didn't look forward to anything.
Hmm.
At the same time, I didn't have any. Basically, I just felt numb. Like I lost all sort of emotions for anything. Couldn't get excited for anything, whether that's seeing mates, whether that's um, you know, going on holiday or anything like that. So,
Hmm.
you know, my flatmate at the time and my girlfriend at the time kind of just you know, pulled me aside a little bit and just said, look, mate, you need to just kind of get yourself together a little bit. So I kind of realized myself that it was happening. And I'm quite lucky in that I live opposite a doctor's surgery. So I went in there and just had a chat and just said, look,
Okay.
this is a situation. I, you know, this is where I am. And off the back of that, you know, they directed me towards some counselling.
Okay. At the
So
time, sorry to cut you. At the time,
no, no worries.
did you recognize what it was you had, or was it from what, you know, the people that you were living with? Um,
No, I mean, at the very beginning, you know, I didn't even realize I was doing it. It was just kind of looking back on it now. It was like, geez, you know, I literally just didn't do anything all
yeah.
day, every
I
day.
mean,
Like I got out of bed, just stared at the ceiling on the
yeah.
sofa all day, pretty
Could
much.
you could I'm guessing you could sense there was something wrong, but you didn't understand what.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially, you know, after talking to a couple of people on that sort of thing, you know, it's like the whole sort of feeling numb thing. It's just like,
Yeah.
why am I not getting excited to see my mates? What's going on? You know,
Yeah.
why am I not getting excited to go on this holiday that I booked with my girlfriend at the time? You know,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? That sort of thing. So yeah, had a chat, and you know, after doing a bit of research myself, I found that some of that was to do with, you know, some of those symptoms of depression, like mild depression, luckily, because, you know, there are a whole host of different things. You know, I didn't feel bad in myself, and I didn't really know, you know, that's what it was until I did that research. But yeah, just being recommended to have sort of counselling sessions once a week for, you know, sort of 6 weeks, which wasn't a big deal. It was like it was an initial call, and then there were some sessions online that I went through. And also I made the decision to actually just keep myself active, keep myself you know, going, basically. So, you know, I forced myself every day to go to the gym. I forced myself to go for an hour's walk every day just to keep my mind busy, basically. And yeah, it slowly and surely just disappeared because I was keeping myself super busy, and I just felt better in myself. I got a new job. I was in a way better place, you know, from a careers perspective, a professional perspective, and, you know, I haven't really looked back since, you know. And I know that I've kind of gone that step further, and I will never let myself get anywhere near that sort of state again. Like, I've gone through, you know, massive change in myself. Like, I went through a breakup last year, and, you know, that's a huge event that could trigger something like that coming back. And, you know, I realized that I'm in a much better place because I didn't go anywhere near where I was before through that process. So, you know, yeah, definitely in a way better place now. And, you know, I'm never going to let myself get to where I was ever again. So it's just sad seeing people, you know, people struggling and going through all that sort of stuff, because I mean, I understand it from a really mild level, and I don't even want to understand. Well, I want to understand, but I don't even want to ever have to experience or imagine what some people have gone through or are going through.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, for someone watching this that relates to what you're saying and maybe going through that, what would you say to them or suggest to them to get past whatever it is that they're going through?
Just talk to someone about it.
Yeah.
That I mean, like the first couple of sessions that I had, it was literally just like, why am I doing this? This isn't going to help, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it genuinely did. After, you know, 3, 4, 5 sort of sessions, keeping yourself really busy. I know it's a little bit tricky at the moment during lockdown, where, you know, we haven't had the opportunity to necessarily do what we could potentially be doing, but just go for a walk, keep yourself busy, keep your mind busy, pick something up, you know, just get out of the house, get out the flat, do something. But I think talking about it, as we mentioned previously, it's, you know, people feel ashamed that this is, you know, maybe making them look weak or something like that, but it's absolutely not. You know, a quarter of people have it, if not more. You know, it's huge. So you're not unusual if you do have something.
Yeah. What were some of the things that they that you spoke about during counselling?
It was mostly just about like how you were feeling, that sort of thing. You know, and as a bloke, it's obviously a bit difficult because, you know, you don't really get many people saying, so how are you feeling? Like, because the default answer as a guy is just fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know,
by doing that, do you think it kind of got you to, you know, seek out the root cause yourself rather than them actually diagnosing you?
A little bit, yeah, because they made you grade everything. So it's like, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 on this? Like, 4. Okay, well, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 on this? Okay, 7. So, you know, immediately it kind of took you away from just being able to say, yeah, I'm okay, well, yeah, I'm fine, that sort of thing. It made you actually think about, actually, how am I feeling about this? Or what did I do on this? That sort of thing. So it gave you a little bit of focus, I think, which is always quite good for this sort of stuff. Yeah, but just having a chat with someone about it, I think just really helps, and just opening up, because, you know, people aren't going to take the piss about this sort of stuff. Like, if you talk to mates about this, they will listen. If they are a genuine friend of yours, they will try and help. They will try and be there for you whenever they can, wherever they can. You know, it's not.
Surrounding you, so like looking at your environment, or, you know, the group of people you socialize with or hang around with the most, and checking with them
Yeah, I mean, you don't even necessarily have to talk about this sort of stuff. You can literally just drop someone a WhatsApp or just give them a call and just say, how's it going? You know, and just have a 5-minute chat. You know, a couple of hours over WhatsApp here and there, you know, trading messages, just see what people are doing. What is someone getting up to? Because you never know. Like, I don't know what you're doing apart from, you know, talking to me right now. So, you know, if I hadn't, you know, if we hadn't checked up or anything like that, then I wouldn't know how you're doing really, unless I really kind of dived in. And sometimes as blokes, it takes, you know, sort of 2 or 3 questions. You know, as standard, it's like, how you doing? Yeah, fine. So, like, really, how you doing? That sort of thing.
Yeah, sometimes that ego or, you know, perception of you have to be this strong person with no emotion gets in the way, and you kind of, you know, hide it almost to everyone you meet, to be honest. But anyway, moving on. If an athlete wanted to progress their career or potential career, they might be still on the come up in rugby sevens specifically, as we are talking about Cobras, what advice would you give them?
First and foremost, just give it a go. You know, a lot of the time, there are plenty of guys out there who've never played sevens other than maybe at school. It's very, very different to school sevens, you know, this sort of level. And yeah, try not to jump round, because you still get people who jump round various different teams, you know, playing, you know, for 1 week for one team, 1 week for another, 1 week for another. If you can, try and stay with 1 or 2 tops, I think, throughout the course of a season, because you're just going to get to know patterns, get to know the people. You know, you're going to make mates from it. And if you turn up every week and it's different people who you're playing with every single week in different teams, that sort of thing, you're never going to get on the same wavelength or, you know, generate any sort of relationships with the guys who are you know, on the pitch or in the staff or anything like that. So that yeah, trying is a huge thing.
I think what I wanted to say, there's no real clear-cut path in sevens, because I don't think it's as popular as, you know, rugby union or league or whatever else. So yeah, I think the question was, what would you advise someone who wants to progress in just specifically sevens? Because there's no real, there's just, you know, tournaments people just host tournaments. There's no real, you know, how can I actually make this, you know, a career?
Yeah. Well, again, trying it, but at the same time, you know, you've got to do the extras that we mentioned earlier. You've got to actually be in the sort of mindset where you are coachable, where you are, you know, really hungry to develop yourself, because sevens is it's a lot more, you get a lot more exposed than you do in 15s, because there's obviously less people on the pitch, so your core skills have got to be much better. You know, you've got to be strong passing off either hand. You've got to be, you know, you don't see many forwards or you know, second rows, for example, in a game of 15s firing a flat spin pass for 15 yards in a game of 15s. In sevens, that's the standard pass for everybody. Everybody's got to be able to do that. Everybody's got to be able to tackle. Everybody's got to be able to, you know, be of a certain level of fitness that they can last a game of sevens, basically, which most people aren't when they come out of a 15s environment. So, you know, you've got to work on your fitness. You've got to work on your sort of core skills as well, like just basic things like buying one of those pass trainer balls and just spending hours passing the ball against the wall with both hands, that sort of thing, because most people can do it off one hand, typically can't do it off 2 hands. So yeah, just developing your core skills, and as I keep going back to, just give it a go, just play it, and you'll love it, and it will make you a better player. It will genuinely make you a better player. Where you know, if you're trying to develop in sevens or develop in 15s as well, sevens will make you a better player, because as I touched on, there's no room to hide. You have to be of a certain level. So it's like jumping in at the deep end. You will learn, and you will learn quickly. Otherwise, you'll get found out.
Last question. You personally, what do you prefer, sevens or 15s, and why?
I love them both. In terms of playing, I love sevens probably more than 15s. It's just a little bit more relaxed, I think. It's a bit more of a sort of festival atmosphere at sevens tournaments, whereas obviously 15s, there's a lot of focus. There's leagues, there's, you know, people are getting paid, all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more serious. So I think the whole sort of environment around sevens is just a little bit nicer, I think, than and more relaxed than 15s. I mean, if I had to choose from the two, I'd probably say sevens, because sevens helps improve 15s as well. So, you know, a lot of sevens players, just look at the All Blacks, for example, how many people are in their squad that have come through the sevens program. Sevens will make you a better player. Sevens will make you a better sevens and 15s player. 15s will only make you a better 15s player. So
it's good advice. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much for joining me, you know, on your Sunday, whatever it is you do on Sundays. I know it's a rest day for most people. But yeah, I feel there's some really good points and content and everything else in there. So what I'll do anyway with the video is I'll take out, you know, all the gems from the video, post it on the page. You can share it if you want. And then I'll post the full talk on YouTube at the end of next week.
cool.
But yeah, I'm getting in shape myself too. So hopefully.
So I've seen.
So there may be a comeback in store. We'll see. But I'm sure you'll be the first to know anyway.
Let's hope the pace is still there.
It is. Don't worry about that. Speed never goes. Fitness does, though. That's
nice.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah.
I've certainly put on a bit in lockdown, mate. So I'm sure quite a few people have.
The real question is there going to be a comeback for you?
We'll see about that. Still need surgery on my knee, so we'll see.
Have you not got the go ahead yet for?
It's mostly through my laziness, to be honest with you. Work's got in the way, and
yeah.
I keep using that as an excuse, and it's partly me just not wanting to go under the knife and have 9 months of limping around, basically. But
I mean, how have you managed to how have you been able to manage? Have you been able to manage it and rehab it almost yourself?
Day to day, I'm absolutely fine. Like, I don't even notice it. It's just I can't really do contact sports. So whether that's rugby or like five-a-side football or anything like that, I can't really do that. That's pretty much it, really. I can do most things in the gym. I can't really do like heavyweight squats. Like I have to do box squats instead.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, no real impact really. It's just, if I want to get back playing sport.
Yeah, it's a risk.
Yeah.
Whether you want to go, yeah. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you very soon. And then enjoy the rest of your day.
Nice one. You too, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for coming.
No worries. Speak soon, mate.
See you later. Yes, guys. Another very interesting, informative talk there. I see some of you checked in a little bit late, but don't worry. The full talk will be saved and posted up on YouTube at the end of the week as usual. Thank you again to Ollie for joining. Join me next week where I'll be talking to another person of influence. For now, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you next week.